It was Halloween night and the small town of Willow Creek was buzzing with excitement. Children dressed as witches, ghosts, and superheroes roamed the streets, their laughter echoing down the darkened lanes. But on the edge of town where the old fields met the dense, shadowy woods, there was a different kind of buzz, a quiet, sinister hum that no one seemed to notice, except for Jacob. Jacob was 12, and like most kids his age, he loved Halloween. He loved the thrill of it, the candy, and the chance to scare his friends. But this year felt different. As he carved his pumpkin on the porch, he felt a shiver run down his spine. His dad told him it was just the chill in the air, but Jacob knew better. He had heard the stories. Every Halloween people whispered about the Pumpkin Man, a figure who roamed the fields looking for pumpkins left out after dark. If he found one, he would carve it himself. But the face he carved would be nothing like the grinning, friendly faces most kids made. It would be twisted, evil, and always staring straight at the house where it was left. Jacob's best friend Mike dared him to test the legend. "Leave your pumpkin out there, right by the edge of the woods," he had said. "If the Pumpkin Man is real, you'll see." Jacob laughed it off, but as the sun began to set, he felt the dare gnawing at him. He didn't believe in the legend, but what if? At dusk, Jacob took his pumpkin and set it at the far end of his yard, just a few feet from where the field turned into thick, dark forest. It was still early, but the night was already creeping in, casting long, thin shadows across the yard. He stepped back, eyes darting nervously to the tree line, and then ran back to his house, his heart pounding. Hours passed, and Halloween night continued. Trick-or-treaters came and went, but Jacob couldn't focus. He kept glancing out the window, checking to see if his pumpkin was still there. It was, its familiar happy face glowing faintly in the dark. But then, just after 9 p.m., he looked again, and froze. The pumpkin had moved. It was subtle, just a few inches closer to the woods, but it was enough. Jacob's hands trembled as he pressed his face against the glass, trying to convince himself he was imagining things. But he wasn't. The pumpkin was definitely not where he had left it. Suddenly there was a flicker of movement at the edge of the yard. Jacob squinted, trying to make out what he was seeing, when a figure slowly emerged from the dark. It was tall and thin, with a hunched, crooked back and a long, pale face. It wore tattered clothes, and in one hand it clutched a knife. Its other hand rested on the top of Jacob's pumpkin. Jacob's heart stopped. The figure turned the pumpkin slowly, and in the flickering light, he could see the face had changed. It was no longer happy. It was grotesque, a horrible sneer with eyes that seemed to stare straight at Jacob's window. And then, slowly, the figure looked up, its eyes meeting Jacob's. For a moment they just stared at each other, and then the Pumpkin Man smiled. It was a smile that stretched too wide, showing too many teeth. Jacob stumbled back, knocking over a lamp. By the time he dared to look out the window again, the figure was gone. So was the pumpkin. The next morning the pumpkin was found in the woods, smashed to pieces, its jagged grin still visible on the broken shell. Jacob never spoke about what he saw that night, but every Halloween after that, he made sure to carve his pumpkin early, light it up, and keep it far, far from the woods. And he was always careful to bring it inside before dark.